Okay, hi brothers and sisters. We're back for a continuation of our study of where we left off last video. I'll tell you up front, I'm probably not going to be over an hour. If I am, it won't be that much over an hour. And I thought I'd share some books I got. Not that, well, yeah, most of us are suckers for pretty books to write in. So I got this one. It's pretty. What does it say? Practice kindness as much as possible. It came as a 3-pack. I gave the other 2 away. And look, it's just so pretty inside. It's purple. I love purple. I love that color. Beautiful. I got that one. Paid a little more for that one than the rest. It was a 3-pack for 13 something. Reduced from $27. So I said I'll get it because I had actually thought of giving it as a gift to my sister for Christmas or her birthday. Anyway, I ended up breaking the pack up. So then I got this one to a secondhand store. It's not that thick. I only paid $1.50 for it. Not bad. It's got some lines. So pretty quick note taken there. Dream, practice, kindness, hope, enjoy the journey, live, love, laugh, live like there's no tomorrow, dance like nobody's watching. It's just kind of cute. I got a 3-pack of those as well. They were just tossed there in a bin, and I gave one to one of my brothers who's a sucker for books like I am, and one to my sister who's like me. And then I got this one, and it's a bit dinged up, but I don't care. It's a pinkish. I don't know if that's going to show up. Only paid $1.50 for that too, and it's pretty thick. It's pretty cool. So again, I like these really flexible ones. It's got nothing to get in the way, so you can lay them anywhere when you want to take some notes. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that. I also got this, and just a little kind of like a grab bag of junk, and it's this pink. Of course, it's not a real pink diamond, and it's a bit on the tacky side, but boy, don't it write really nice. So anyway, sorry, taking up precious time here. So I said last time we were going to begin studying in Isaiah 65 verse 11. Now I didn't get in to really look at these to the degree that I wanted to, but I did get in Ecclesiastes chapter 12 rather, which is probably where we're going to spend most of our time tonight before we move on to the precious chapters like Jeremiah 18, Isaiah 45, and really dig into them. And so this is going a little bit slower than I thought. I just don't have the time anymore like I used to have. You just never know how life is going to change over time. So we said we'd pick it up in verse 11. So I don't have a whole lot of notes. I'll just briefly look here. Because I really spent so much of my time, a couple hours this morning in Ecclesiastes, and just really enjoyed Ecclesiastes 12. I didn't think, I just said, well, I'm going to take a look at it and read it and see what I can pick up, and I just really got caught up in it right before I had to leave. And so that's where we're probably going to spend most of our time. So we'll begin Isaiah 65 verse 11, but it says, "But ye are they that forsake the Lord, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop, and that furnish the drink offering unto that number." Now I had said that verse, the troop here, I believe that was the verse, I said was actually took me in my thinking to the sluggish locust, I believe it's called, in Ecclesiastes 12, because sometimes when you're reading locust, it lends itself to the idea of an army, right? A great army. And so it, for some reason, led me to that sluggish locust in Ecclesiastes 12. And what my thoughts on that was about aging soldiers who had really become quite useless. Not because necessarily they were aging, but because what had come into the world, the truth of God, had made these troops now utterly useless, and in some sense frightened of what they were facing. So that's a real bad overview of the thought I had. But that was there. So we're going to take a look at that in a minute. We'll finish reading right down to 16 because that's where our new break comes in Isaiah 65 at 17. So that furnish the drink offering unto that number. And we had said what we thought it might mean on last video. Verse 12, therefore will I number you to the sword, and ye shall all bow down to the slaughter. Because when I called, who called? We looked at that. Wisdom. Where'd wisdom call from? Proverbs 1. Where did Proverbs 1 take us to in our understanding? It took us to Psalm 2, right? Where she says to her firstborn, this day have I begotten thee. And we have looked at that multiple times. So when I called, ye did not answer. When I spake, ye did not hear. Who's that? It's feminine. The idea is female speaks and nobody listens. That's the idea. But you did evil before mine eyes, and you did choose that wherein I delighted not. What's that? Exalting the harlot spirit in your heart. So why? So man could empower himself and play God with the law of God. So that kind of takes us to our thinking in Isaiah 24. It says the earth, let's go. I'll go there because it is important. Anybody who comes along on these studies, we're trying to always pick up new information. And you do have to talk things out. You do have to think things out. Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth around the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoilt, for the Lord hath spoken this word. This is actually going to link us to Ecclesiastes 12. It's amazing. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled. There we go with that word, defiled. Let our eyes look upon Zion. Let her be defiled. Who's that? The daughters of Israel, right? And we know where we're driving at. So the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, my commandments. They have changed the ordinance, and they have broken the everlasting covenant, which we learn in Isaiah 28 is going to be disannulled. Now, if I can remember where I found the word, there is a word coming up soon. It may be in Ecclesiastes 12, where disannulled is used, or disannulled. And it's in a very important passage, so hopefully I'll be able to remember where that was. So verse 6, therefore, has a curse, and that links us directly to Zechariah chapter 5, the woman in the basket, which is a curse that goeth forth over the whole earth. What's that? That's the harlot spirit bowing to man as God, right? Now, they don't want to say bowing to man as God. They don't want to say that part. They just want to say, oh, that's women as harlots. That's a curse in the whole earth. Well, you have to understand God's definition of what a harlot spirit is. A harlot spirit is one who submits to man-made religious lies and laws and bows to the idol of her Baal, her husband, as if he is Lord and God. She was to adhere to her mother's covenant, and she was to speak it in the earth. That's what she was supposed to do. And like we discussed, there is the indication that she did indeed do this, and that there was some that turned away from that responsibility. And then we come up with, you divided my pleasant land. Well, the pleasant land was identified as the daughters of Israel, identified as the glory of the Lord. And God says, you divided my pleasant land, you divided my covenant. That's what we see going on in allegory when you see in Isaiah 22 Solomon dividing the reservoir. Sorry, I didn't mean to flash that light at you. And that's the word of God that got divided, which you then see her happening to actually part this admixture of doctrine called the Red Sea, right, into two, and birthing her children out through, as you understand. It was the presence of God that had to do that, and she did do it. And so we see all of that there. We've taken a look at it over time. So therefore has the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Where does that word desolate take us to? Well, for any of us on this channel, we know exactly the passage it takes us to. It takes us to this one, doesn't it? Isaiah 54, verse 1. Right? Study to show thyself approved unto God. It doesn't mean unto a man on the pulpit going, yeah, you're getting what I'm teaching you. No, I'm getting what the Spirit is teaching me, and that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to try those spirits in the land. I'm supposed to test those boys on the pulpit. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to be militant and sitting in my chair and go, oh, that's what it means. Oh, that's what it means. Like they're programming me, because that's just what they've done over time. They've programmed you to just repeat everything they say instead of going in and studying it for yourself. So Isaiah 54, verse 1, we're looking at the word desolate that's going to, oh, I lost my page. Where was I? That takes us to what I was just reading in Isaiah 24. No, I did not lose my page. But what verse? Therefore has a curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. So here we go. Isaiah 54, verse 1. We know it's the feminine in view here. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Who's that? Well, that's the desolate that we're speaking of there. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. Oh, does a man travail with child? Ask ye now and see, does a man travail with child? What it means, does a man give life? That's what it's actually saying. Then why now do I see every man standing around with his hands on his hips as a woman in travail and every face turned pale? Then why are I seeing men trying to deliver children when it is clearly her job to do that? So why do we see, thou that didst not travail with child, for more are the children of the desolate woman spirit, desolate spirit that got rejected by the first Adam when he accused her. That's right. Children of the desolate, than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord. So who was the married wife, we discovered? Well, simply another word for Baal, meaning a woman that'll submit to her husband as if everything he says is Lord, comes from the Lord. It did not. It came from himself. And she ends up playing his harlot. That leads us to Isaiah 47. The queen of the kingdom is identified as Babylon, the harlot. She says, no one sees me. I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. Why does no one see her? Well, your obvious response has to be because you're hid. The harlot spirit is hid in his heart. And then they tell us man is our head. So what does that lead to? If he's got the harlot exalted in his heart, and he's your head, which you believe, which is a lie, he's not your head. As you can clearly see, I'm sorry, I don't have a man's head. I have a woman's head. Yeah, really. Come on, reason this out, right? So we see the desolate here spoken of. In Isaiah 24, when we make our connections, it's clearly the desolate spirit that was rejected in the earth, which was the holy daughters of Israel, inside of the nation of Israel, which then we see Balaam and Balak sending in the women who had already been taught the surrounding Adamic nations way through violence is the indication through some of these women's name. Some submitted themselves willingly to this lie. There was a benefit to it for them, or so they thought. God said, you don't realize this is to your own debasement and defilement, and you ain't caught on to that yet. But they did in time. They caught on to what it did. And they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few are left. It says men. We're not going to say men. We're going to say few are left. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, and all the merry-hearted do sigh. You see, they're sighing, the merry-hearted. The mirth of the tabrets ceases, the noise of them that rejoices. Ceases. Okay, the mirth of the tabret ceaseth. The joy, or the noise of them that rejoices, endeth. And the joy of the harp ceases. This is going to take us to Ecclesiastics, right, in our study. They shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down, and every house is shut up, that no man may come in. So just bear these in mind, these verses, because we're going to carry, some of these verses literally carry right over into Ecclesiastes 12. Verse 11, there is a crying for wine in the streets, and all joy is darkened, and the mirth of the land is gone. There's no happiness left. Why? Well, we're going to discover why in Ecclesiastes chapter 12. So in the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. The gate. So what did we learn about the gate? The valley of Achor. There is a gateway there for us. And it'll be through great weeping and bitterness that we find our way back in that gate, according to what is stated. Now, I can't fully remember everything in that. I'd have to take a real second look. But like I say, most of my thoughts today had me in Ecclesiastes 12. So when thus it shall be in the midst of the land among the people, there shall be as the shaking, there we go with the shaking, thinking of a quake here, of an olive tree, and as the gleaning grapes when the vintage is done. So it's come to the full. Earth has come to the full here, is the indication. They shall lift up their voice, they shall sing for the majesty of the Lord, they shall cry aloud from the sea. That kind of makes me think of the islands waiting on the word of the Lord. The islands in the sea. Where is that? In Isaiah 41, 42, 43, somewhere in there. Verse 15, wherefore glorify ye the Lord in the fires, even the name of the Lord God of Israel in the isles of the sea. From the uttermost parts of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous dealers, that's unfaithful men, which began with the first Adam, unfaithful to her covenant, the daughters of Israel covenant. And then we saw, like I said, Balaam and Balak sending the harlots that had been taught. I hadn't finished my thought on that. Sending in the women who knew the law of the men that they had written to actually contaminate the daughters inside the nation of Israel, known as the woman's seed. And so once they contaminated the men, then the men rejected the daughters of Israel, to which God says, fine, you don't want my scepter to rule through. I cast her out into the lands of the Gentile. And so that takes us to the understanding that it was actually a way for God to enlarge her birthright in Isaiah 49, where she would claim everybody. And God says to her firstborn Ephraim, and she is called her firstborn, I believe, in Isaiah 49. I may have that wrong. It may be in Hosea, where God calls Ephraim her firstborn of her womb. And God says in Psalm 2, once you follow the passage from Proverbs 1, realizing it's wisdom, God speaking there, the Ancient of Days, literally, to her firstborn daughter. And she says to her in Psalm 2, ask of me the nations, and I'll give the heathens to you. Now, they don't want to believe it's a daughter there, but it is no father that births, as in the birthing process, birthing a child, literally. And that is the word that is gave there. It's mother speaking to her firstborn daughter. So she says, this day have I begotten thee. I have heard your voice, your spirit in the earth. So when you put all these passages together, there's no denying it is the divine feminine that they simply wrote over and put he instead, because it tickled their ears. It was like honey on their tongue, and they didn't care that it was wormwood in their stomach and was eventually going to lead to their death, which it did. So, where are we? Verse 16, from the uttermost parts of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous, the unfaithful dealers have dealt treacherously. Yea, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitant of the earth. So what did we discover the pit and the snare was? Well, what we discovered was this current religious lie that they teach us, the theology of a man as God. which really came out of the nation of Egypt once we got into doing our study, especially with that key phrase that they give us in the Old and link it to the New, with Sodom and Gomorrah, which then in the New Testament, where the witnesses die, is actually Sodom in Egypt. And we know Gomorrah actually meant a rebellious people. So when they come out of Egypt, while you don't see them in the very beginning being rebellious, they actually turn into a very rebellious people. Couldn't leave, in a sense, the belief system where they had been raised up in for 400 years behind them. They literally wanted meat in their basket. That was something that came from the nation of Egypt. It did not come from God. God said, I ask no blood of you. I never ask blood of you. And so she gets very mad when they say they want meat in their baskets, and she brings it down. And then she says, you changed the glory of your great nation, the daughters of Israel, into an ox that eateth grass. Then we see it coming to a man standing as your Lord and God, Baal. That's the idol. That Apis, the bull, the solar calf deity, turns into Baal, which is another word for your husband, standing as your Lord and God. In Daniel 2 and 3, which is what Nebuchadnezzar dreams about, and he sees these different colored precious metals, to which then they come right down to clay at the feet. And what we realize is each successive kingdom built upon this idea that man was God. And so we then at the end we see the rock identified as the daughter of Israel herself, cut out without hands. She's the spirit reborn in the earth, right? And she says, we wait for no man to tell us what we can and can't do. We are the spirit reborn. And so it's a rock cut out without hands. It smashes its toes on the false image, which is identified as your capstone in Zechariah 4. It's the only time it's ever referred to as a feminine. And they say, glory, glory unto it. And it grows into a great mountain, and it's Mount Zion, the daughters of Israel, reborn once again in the earth, as your government, as your law, as the presence of God on earth. And it's the only sense and reasoning you're going to make. Once we identified the key of David is in total opposition to the key of Solomon, we link the number 666 back to King Solomon. The only time in the Old Testament you will link the number 666 back. Once we realize he was actually building the harlot spirit up in the land so that he could play God, we see that she is the stone, the key of David, known as the daughter of Israel, rejected before the foundation of the world. And he lays in play with other men, which began with men like Nimrod, we see. Then Sennacherib, which means that pointy cherub, right? And then we see King Solomon actually walling up the breaches of David, the gateway, where the true living water from the daughters of Israel from the north kingdom would flow into the south kingdom with her water, with her word from her mother to govern the nations of the earth. Not only Israel, but possibly it was to extend outward at some point before all of this huge dispute of Adam. Sorry, I got to pause the video. I apologize for this. Okay, hi. I'm back again. I don't remember what I was talking on. Adam, something to do with Adam. And I can't backtrack this the way it is. So I guess we will just, forgive me. I'll be mad when I watch the video myself and go, oh, I couldn't remember. But there's just, I could sit here for the next 20 minutes and I wish I'd have made a note. I didn't. So we were in verse 17 of Isaiah 24, fear in the pit and the snare upon thee, O inhabitants of the earth. Yeah. So I was saying something about King Solomon and we understanding how King Solomon built up the harlot in the land, and he walls up the breaches, and that's the gateways, right, of David his father. So we've looked at this is how we come about understanding the key of David, actually by understanding King Solomon. So we knew that the number linked back to him, and then what we understood is the design of that entire system was to have woman bowing at man's feet and worshiping him as if he was God. And so that led us to the understanding of Baal and Nebuchadnezzar's dream and what that all pertained to. And it is the only thing that makes sense. And Adam was the accuser. He had great pride. We link the name Satan, Baal, Beelzebub. Beelzebub was an idolatrous idol, which meant your husband as Lord and God, which meant your husband. What we understood is that's actually the idol that they build up, man as your bridegroom, as your Lord and your God. And God said, I'll remove the name of Baal out of your mouth. He ain't your Lord and your God. And they try to say husband is speaking there, or you were to adhere to me. Well, the one that's speaking there is our mother. And so anyway, we got to get moving to get to Ecclesiastes 12 because it is such a fascinating chapter. And so fear in the pit. So the pit was bowing at the idol of a man, and we know the mark in this system 666 is blood. You are marked in blood. You wash in it and you drink it, and God says fine, you want to wash in blood, you want to drink it. In one of, I believe, is it one of the bowl judgments? Maybe it's not, maybe it's one of the trumpet judgments. I have been looking into that a little bit, just didn't get into it deep enough today. Wherein God says fine, I'll send you blood to wash in, and I'll send you blood to drink. So God says, I'll wash the blood guilt off of my daughters. You are guilty of shedding blood by bowing to a system that permits it, right? I asked no blood of you, I never did. So Isaiah 4:4. So the mark of the 666 system, which is the harlot spirit in the land, that Solomon built up out of pride. And we know it's Solomon because of Isaiah 14 and because of passages like Ezekiel 28 where it says, thou art wiser than Daniel. Well, if it had have wanted to clue you in to Daniel, it probably would have said somebody not quite so wise as Daniel, but was quite well known to be wise. I can't think of any right off the top. So for it to say, Daniel, thou art wiser than Daniel, the first thing I thought of, it's talking about another man. It's not talking about, a supernatural being or entity. It's cluing you in that it's another man that is trying to, tell you about. And that is, thou art wiser than Daniel. There was only one wiser than Daniel that you can immediately go to and think of. And that's King Solomon. And that gets further validated in passages like Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 when it says, but thou art not a god. Thou art just a man, right? And so they tell us that Satan says, I will, I will, I will. At least I've been taught that from the pulpit. Satan said, I will, I will. Isaiah 14, he says, I will exalt my throne to the north mountain, north congregation. That's where the house in the forest of Lebanon was. And it's identifying the north kingdom. We know Israel was divided into two kingdoms, the south and the north. The south was where the male, and the north was the female. Now that's what we came to understand. And there is two tabernacles in existence, or there was before they tore ours down and put us under his religious lies and laws. And that was, in the north, identified as a house in the forest of Lebanon. So we've took a lot of time on understanding that being torn down in Psalm 74 and linking us to Isaiah 22, where King Solomon, who says, I will be like the Most High. I will sit on a throne and be God. And yet God says, you are nothing more than a man. You are not God. So, I will, Satan becomes a man. And it becomes so much easier to link it all the way back to the beginning story that they feed us. But yet they tell you a simple truth in there. He did accuse her. He accused the spirit of his original covenant, and he married a harlot. That's what we're told in Malachi chapter 2. Malachi chapter 2. What does it say? I talk about it, but I never read it. But what does God say in Malachi 2? It's amazing. I'm probably gone by it. I can never keep it straight. Okay. I'm close. Okay. Turn. Well, where is it? It's the very last book in the Old Testament. Okay. So what does God say in Malachi 2? We'll just look at a couple of verses. Verse 10. Malachi 2, verse 10. Have we not all one? It says, Father? No, my mother made me. My father couldn't. He can't form the clay. My mother can form the clay in her womb. She is a reflection of the Creator. Me as a woman is a reflection of the Creator, of the potter that forms the clay. It's not Father. So have we not all one mother? So that's the challenge on this planet. Remember thy Creator in the days of thy youth. And that's not a father. Hath not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously, that's unfaithfully, every man against his, they got brother, sister. It was the sisters they were dealing treacherously with. Keep reading the chapter, it tells you. Profaning the covenant of our mothers. And they did, they profaned the covenant of our mothers. Judah had dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed. What's the abomination lead us to? The abomination of desolation. A man inside of a man shall have no children. Because he's exalting the harlot that will exalt him and allow him to play God, and put a man inside of a man, and bow down at the feet of an idol. An abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem, for Judah had profaned the holiness of the Lord, which was the daughter of Israel, known as the presence of God on earth. Also the camp of Mahanaim. Profaned the holiness of the Lord, which she loved. Mother loves her daughter. And have married the daughter of a strange god. Yeah, really. Because you are nothing more than a man. You are not God. That's what God says. So if we skip down, verse 14, this is what God says. Yet ye say, wherefore? Because they're weeping and they're going on about, oh, they've sacrificed. And God says, I'm tired of this, you know. And God says, yet ye say, wherefore? Because the Lord has been witness between thee, Adam, man, fallen man, and the wife of your youth, against whom you have dealt treacherously, against, yet is she thy companion, and the wife of thy covenant. And then God says, make sure you deal not treacherously with the spirit. And God is saying, with your wife. Get it? No? Don't get that? So then that leads us to Isaiah 28, and the covenant that is to be disannulled, which is with the harlot spirit that builds a religious lie up and treats man as if he's God in the earth. Yet you are nothing more than a man. Satan, Adam, Baal, Beelzebub, devil, satyr. They all lead straight back to husband. There was something else I wanted to say here. I can't remember. I can't remember. Anyway, so when we read Isaiah 24, it's going to take us through other passages, particularly Ecclesiastes chapter 12. So we got to get on to that. And it shall come to pass that those that flee from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. And the foundations are shaken because it goes back to who was rejected before the foundations of the world, which was the righteous daughters of Israel. It was not a man. Your cornerstone is identified as feminine. Your well, your fountain is identified as feminine. It's not identified as male. And that's why we go to Malachi 2 and we see them dealing treacherously with the spirit of the original covenant, which was the daughters of Israel, and their law, whom Adam had so much pride he just couldn't receive it from her mouth. Just couldn't handle it. The earth is utterly broken down, the earth is clean dissolved, and the earth is moved exceedingly. I can't remember right off, but I believe if you go to Peter, 2 Peter, it speaks of the elements being, does it say dissolved there? I honestly can't remember. And when it speaks of the element, it's talking about the principles, the original principles that we're founded on right now. And they're not the original. You know, they're the false foundation, but it talks about those principles. The elements is the principles that we're currently founded upon. That's going to be dissolved, right? Disannulled. The earth is moved exceedingly. Verse 20, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days shall they be visited. Then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed. And when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before, not his ancients, gloriously, before her ancients, glorious. It is the Ancient of Days, our Mother Wisdom, who is the ruler of the entire kingdom, and who gives life to all things. So let's go to Ecclesiastics. And I'm not 100% sure. Usually the way it works with me is I'll get an idea on something, and over time it will slowly evolve into something more. And so sometimes I'll find I had certain parts correct, and sometimes I'll find I had them wrong. So for now, I'm just going to go with my thoughts on it, saying that they're probably not all right. And over time, they'll probably grow, and the Lord will continue to show me and lead me to passages in the scriptures that will further my understanding of the entire thing. Sorry again about the flashlight. Okay, so Ecclesiastes 12. This is amazing. And we're only going to read up to verse 8. So 1 to 8 is what we've got left to look at. So Ecclesiastes 12, remember now thy Creator. Oh, there's an important word, Creator. What does that word mean, Creator? Let's go in the back here. I can pull it up, but I'm not going to. So the word is 1254. So let's go to our Strong's Hebrew, 1254. All right, am I there? Okay. Excuse me. So 1254, it says this, but it's a man. Yeah, don't reason. Don't make sense. There's 2 tabernacles below, not 1. Okay, so what did I say? 1224? I forgot that quick. 1254. Sorry. So 1254. All right, this is what it says. To create. To cut down, wood, feed, choose, creator, cut down. A verb meaning to create. Okay, well that's not the same. Okay, we are going to do this because I don't like that one because I did get a completely different understanding. Where am I? Ecclesiastics, right there. Okay, oh, we go. Okay, Ecclesiastes 12:1. And we're going to hit on the word creator. So remember your Creator in the days of your youth. This is very important. Very important. It's one of the most important passages in the Bible. So that word 853 is actually there when I look at the words, which I identified meaning the oath of the daughters of Israel. Because oath of the daughters of Israel, 853, actually, when you hit on it, because they'll tell you they don't know the meaning of the word 853. But when you hit on it, it'll backtrack you to 226, which means an oath. So they tend not to want to translate 853, But from all of my studies and where it appears, I'm going to tell you, it means the oath of the daughter of Israel. That's what it means. And oath, as we know, means a covenant. So it means the covenant of the daughter of Israel. So, what does this word mean here? I like this one much better. 1254, bara, to shape, create, right? If you keep going down, it's going to say with reference to birth. That's right. But they tend to want to tell you, God, He created everything with His hand. You know. No. Mother created it all. She formed it. And so this word becomes very important to our actual Creator that you see in Deuteronomy 32:18 again. So let's go in Deuteronomy. I didn't have this pulled up, but I speak about this so much. Deuteronomy 32, verse 18. Can't see here. Of the rock that begat thee. It says, who fathered you? You forgot the God who gave birth to you. All right, let's go in on that. Let's look at it and see what we can learn from the words. We're actually going to learn through the Spirit. Of the rock. If you hit on that, it's going to say your God or rock. Who brought you forth? 3205. What does it say? To bear. Does a father bear? No. Bring forth. Does he bring forth? No. Begat. Bearing, bears, became the father. Become the father. Begetting. Brings forth. Brought them forth. Childbirth. There's no mention of mother anywhere in this passage because it's all about Father giving life. Right. Okay. So of the God who birthed you, brought you forth, you are unmindful of. You forgot and you deprived her of her rightful place. All right? As actually the firstborn of the kingdom, made in the image of her mother, made in the image of her mother, wisdom, or the Ancient of Days, who created all things. So, who gave birth? Oh, let's look that word up. Of the rock, of the God. That's right. Who begat you? Who formed you? What's the word here? It's 2342. To whirl, dance, writhe. Oh, that's what Daddy did. He danced and writhed. Why, he formed you. Sure he did. That means pain and childbirth. So, who did you deny? Who did you forget? What creator did you forget? Bear. Make to bring forth. Make to calf. Dance. Drive away. Fall grievously with pain. Sounds just like a father in childbirth, don't it? Why now do I see every man standing around with his hands on his hips as if he can give life? Why? And every face turn pale. Why? She says, you say, all the children are a burden to me. Jeremiah 23. Oh, she says, don't worry. The children will be no burden to me because it's going to fall on you to deliver them. You're the creator who can give life and who can form clay and who can birth it. Let's see you do it, boys. That's what she's challenging them to. And she says, if you keep prophesying the burden of the Lord, the burden of the Lord, then she says, I'm going to put swords in your hand and you're going to turn on each other. And those swords are allegorical to the lies, the religious lies. We've got a threefold religious lie in the land. And you know what they're actually doing? They're turning on themselves. Yeah. Oh, they weave the web of lies together. They said, hey, we can hold in this lie to make her our harlot. Oh, yeah, there's no such thing as a bad guy. They're all good guys. And you get right down to it. Just listen to them. But every face is turned pale. Right? Yeah. To writhe in pain, especially of parturition. That means giving birth. Having a baby. All right, so Daddy did that, right? Of the God, of the rock that formed you and writhed in pain to birth you, you are ignorant of. So what does it say here? Remember now, thy Creator. What was the word for Creator? Sorry, I lost it. Where'd it go? Okay, is it that word right there? See, I'm on... What? Okay, sorry. I apologize. That shouldn't be there. Ecclesiastic should be there. I must have accidentally X'd it when I went out. Yeah, that seems to be how it works for me. So let's see if I can locate it. Be done to you. Okay, nope. I got a lot pulled up here though. Where'd it go? It's just nowhere. It's gone. What'd I do? I accidentally hit it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I absolutely did. I'm sorry about that. Let me go into my history and hit my last tab. Recently closed. Nope. No. Where did it go? Did it go to another tab? I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't mean to do this. Well, where'd it go? It was on the tail end here. Well. It's nowhere here. And it had to be because I had to look that word Creator up. Alright, let's do it again. You want to play nasty. Okay. 12. Alright. Sorry. Okay, we'll hit on Creator again. So we understand. Okay, interlinear. Creator. 1254. To shape. To shape. That's a word for Creator here. She just said, I formed you in my womb. I writhed in pain in birth to bring you forth. And you forgot the rock that did that. You forgot the God that did that. She says, I know no other God but myself. All right? That's what she says. So what's the idol in the land? What's the mark of the beast system if it isn't blood? Blood does not wash you. It stains you, right? So here we have this Creator who shapes and creates, and they'd have you believe it is a man or male God. Because they make sure to tell you it's not a genderless God. Although God does state in Deuteronomy 4, you saw no image of me, make no image of me. And what did they do? They made an image. Daniel 2, Daniel 3. It testifies to the image that they made of a God. Now, for those of us who can't reason, and for those of us who can, this begins to add up in the Old Testament. And God says, you didn't want God ruling over you. You wanted a king. God says, I gave you a king. But in, I believe it's the book of Amos, may not be. She says, I gave you a king, but I took him away in my wrath. Right? Here at the end, God is not only a king, he's a man. He's a God. A king and a man. And God says, you didn't want me, you wanted a king. How exactly does that reason out in your tiny brain that God is a man and a king? When God says, you didn't want me ruling over you. God never refers to God's self as a king, ever, except for the times that men imposed themselves on the text, which began to be more and more and more, as we see the false prophets in Jeremiah 23 prophesying in Baal and using the he pronoun. And as they got full control and every bit of control over it, then they simply go back in the text where she did exist and remove it to the point where they think they're so smart you'll never catch them again. Leaving just enough of a hint in there saying to God, well, if she really cared, She'd go in and she'd find the truth. Obviously, she wants to play our harlot. But what does God say in Micah chapter 4? Let her eyes look upon Zion, let her be defiled. But what does God say? You know not the thoughts of the Lord. God says, arise and thresh, O daughter of Israel. So, you forgot. You forgot your Creator. In the days of your youth. That's right. Okay. So, let's continue here. So, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not. Remember him while you have time. That takes us to wisdom, where she says, I'll call, but only for so long. Right? And then I'm going to send my rod. Which takes you to Psalm 2, which is her firstborn. And she says, ask of me the nations, all the heathens, and I'll give them all to you. And then she says, arise and thresh, O daughter of Israel. And nobody can make the connection. Right? While the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. Now, I don't know if there was any words in that. I should be looking up. Watch this. This takes us to what it said in Isaiah 24. While the sun, or the light, or the moon, or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. So God is saying, before the tribulation hits, because these are all the signs of the tribulation, the last 3.5 years. And we know it's the last 3.5 years, which are called what? The bowl judgments, or the vial judgments. And that seems to be the entire 3.5 years. Now, I'm not going to say that for 100%, because I haven't been in there looking at it like I need to. But that's at that time when the witnesses actually die. And we've identified those witnesses dying in the land of Sodom in Egypt, which is where the current day religious lie and law system comes out of, Egypt. And God says to Pharaoh in Ezekiel, I can't remember the chapter right off, if it's 14 or what, you muddy my, no, it's in the 30s. You muddy my waters, right? Because, and why would God say, my waters? What, she's showing you who she's talking about. The water belongs to the wife of the original covenant, the spouse of the original covenant. Now that's identified in Proverbs 5, in Song of Songs 4:12 to 15, which then leads you to the temple that actually gets built, that the water is flowing out, and it's fresh water, it's not salt water. It says all the salt water will be returned back to the marsh, and everything there will be dead. I can't remember. Nothing will grow there anyway. And everything will be fresh water. That's identifying her temple. The house in the forest of Lebanon is what's in view there. It is not a man's temple in Judah, right? It's her temple, the one they tore down. And it's the waters that's identifying that. So she says to the Pharaoh, you muddy my waters, right? So this is taking us, like I said, to the bowl judgments. How do we know that? If we keep reading, that's exactly what God brings in. So verse 3, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few. And those that look out of the windows be, what? Darkened. They see dimly. They see dimly. But why are they seeing dimly? Verse 4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of the grinding is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. They'll grow faint. It's talking about mirth and joy. There's not mirth and joy in the land. We see that identified in Isaiah 24. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high. So I believe it was this word I took a look at, so it's important we take a quick look at this. We'll hit interlinear on that verse 5, and we will look at height, which is 1364. It's an adjective, means to be high and exalted, higher officials, lofty, that which is high. Okay, yeah. So it wasn't this exact word, but it led me to the understanding something that is very high. Even perhaps a planet, right? I, for some reason, went to the idea of a planet in our orbit. Now, I have a reason for that because of another word. Now, if I can't remember it. Okay, so let's back out and read this verse again. Maybe I'll prompt my memory here. Okay, now, there's something that they want to translate here, too, that is not right. All right? Not here. No. Okay, I'll get there. Okay, so when people are afraid of heights and of dangers in the street, when the almond tree blossoms. All right, so almond tree, look at that. So where's the almond rod? Where is that? Isn't there said to be an almond branch in the Ark of the Covenant? It was Aaron's, right? Said to be Aaron's. And when that, they're waiting for it to blossom, to my understanding. So, I can't remember exactly all of those details. But here we have a blossoming almond rod. Where does that take us to? So, when people are afraid of heights and of dangers in the street, when the almond tree blossoms, and the grasshopper, see there, I said it was a locust. It's a grasshopper, shall drag itself along, and desire no longer is stirred. All right, so we see desire is no longer there, right? They're full of fear. It's gone dark. They're actually under excruciating judgment from when people are afraid of the heights. All right, which links us to the tree, the almond tree, blossoming. And then it says this, then people go to their eternal home and mourners go about the street. So let's get a different rendering on this. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fears shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden. The grasshopper is a burden. Now, there is some renderings of particularly certain passages. I'm not saying particular passages that when you read, it does give the understanding of a great host or an army. Now, you can say, well, a host of grasshoppers is an army. They will destroy. But that is your likeness to soldiers, a group of soldiers, hosts that will destroy. Right? They'll destroy the land. They destroy green things. They do. That's what war does. And the grasshopper shall be a burden. And desire shall fail, because man goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about the street. Now let me see here if I can find this word that makes me think the heights is in reference to a planet. All right, so we'll keep going. Now, I also want to link this right quick, and I do have that one pulled up. Let me find it. Right there. Right here. So, the almond branch leads you to the daughters of Zion, called a flock of she-goat, called the camp of Mahanaim, being shepherdessed, that's right, new word, by the Shulamite, all right? And here we have, it says he goes down, but I believe she goes down. And it says, I went down to the garden of nuts to look at the fruits of the valley and to see if the vine flowered and if the pomegranates blossomed. Now, there is one translation here that renders this as almond. Only one, but that's all it takes. We'll go down, we'll pick it up here. No, we won't. I already had it pulled up. Okay, so which one was it? Right there. It's the Good News translation. I have come down among the almond trees to see the young plants in the valley, and to see the new leaves on the vines and the blossoms on the pomegranate. So she's coming down, she's looking for the rod that you'll find in Ezekiel 21 that she intends on ruling through, which is akin to the high ones here. All right, so let's go back here to Ecclesiastes 12 and we'll keep reading. And fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall blossom, and the grasshopper drags himself along, and shall be a burden, and desire shall fail. Now, verse 6, or ever the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken and the cistern. So what are we looking at there? Well, my first thought with the idea of bowl was the bowl judgments in Revelations, right? The 7 bowl judgment, or even 6, and then the 7th usually is a final wrap-up of things. And I looked at it briefly, but it was really this that got my my understanding moving forward on so much. So, or ever the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken at cistern. So you have till this time, right? And this is a reference to the jars holding water, right? You're allowed to receive of the water from the holy ones when they're gave to you until they are no more, until they're took out, till they're broken. You have that time to receive of the water out of that well, right? And we do see them breaking these jars. They do it over and over and over. To which we get that understanding in Revelation 6 where God says, you must wait yet a little while, right? And she hands them white robes until those who are to be killed like you finally arrive. The number of you finally arrives. And that's at 144,000 first fruits, I believe. So remember her. It's got him. No, remember your creator. The one that the world don't know. The real creator. Before the silver cord. What's silver allegorical to? Well, silver is allegorical to truth and to the water. It's severed. And the golden bowl. So we get a reference here with bowl that's going to take us to Zechariah 4:2 and 4:3. What do you see? He asked. I see a solid gold lampstand. Here we get a different understanding. I replied, with a bowl at the top and 7 lamps on it with 7 spouts to the lamp. Now the water washes us clean and it nurtures us, all right? It gives us life. And the oil is allegorical. This is the same. It's the water and the oil. They're 2 comparisons of the same spirit in the earth. So we get this with the gold lampstand with the bowl at the top and 7 lamps on it with 7 spouts to the lamp. Now what are they feeding into? Fire, right? The light of the world. Now I have an understanding of this. I'm not going to share tonight. I might share it at some future point. But we get 6 continent with a 7th one is your understanding as the light. And that's representative of the 2 witnesses in the earth, which is mother and daughter. It is not male and female. It is mother and daughter as your 2 witnesses. Because they are allegorical to your oil and your water. All right? And they'll say, well, oil and water don't mix. This is simply an allegory. Because she gives the light to the world, to the continents, as the lamp of God, the middle one, right? And then you've got this bowl, and you look bowl up, it's going to take you right back to the word jar, to a reddish jar, cod, a ruby-colored jar. The ruby, because they are the red heifer in allegory, though they tell us that that's really Jesus, all right? That's what they tell us. You won't get no understanding otherwise of it, other than being male, by those warlocks and witches. And you can say, oh, I don't like the word warlock. Too bad, it means an oath breaker, and that's just what these boys are. When you try to exalt yourself in a male as God and pretend that that's not what you did and what you're doing, and you fed it out to the 4 corners of the world, you're just trying to protect yourself. And that's all you're doing. You're not willing to stand up for the truth. And so I replied, with a bowl at the top, the 7 lamps on it, with 7 spouts to the lamps. So they're lighting the world up with their light. And she is promised to be the light of the world in Isaiah 49. Zechariah 4:3. There are also 2 olive trees beside it, one on the right side of the bowl and the other on its left. So these are the 2 witnesses, mother and daughter. And God says, remember your Creator before the silver cord is loosed or the golden bowl is broken. When the golden bowl is broken, there's no more water. Or the pitcher, jar, is shattered at the fountain, which is what they want it to do. They made her well of water a ruinous heap. We're told that in Song of Songs. Or the wheel broken at the well. So these bowl judgments, then we get this verse, because then it turns to wrath for the rejecting of her word. Was it this one? Yeah, Obadiah 1:15. The day of the Lord is near for all nations. What's the day of the Lord about? The controversy of Zion. What was the controversy regarding? You split my pleasant land into 2 covenants. One, a harlot that bows down to man as if he's Lord and God, and you rejected my righteous daughters of Israel. And I told you, I ain't ruling through no rod that has my daughters bowing like harlot at man's feet as if he's Lord and God and gave life to everything when I am your Creator. And she says, I know no other God. But that don't make sense, does it? That woman forms you in her womb and gives life to you as the image of the Creator. And God says, you are without excuse not to understand my Godhead. I manifested it in what I created for your eyes to bear witness to. He don't give life. And the Old Testament says it is the life giver that is the God of all. That's right. So I'm not wrong to say she's God, because the Old Testament validates it. All right? And God says, you are nothing more than a man, Solomon. You are not God, Satan, Adam, the accuser, who accused the spirit of the original covenant because you didn't want to have to receive the law of heaven at her lips. And so you simply tore her house down, or you repurposed it for your own, what you want it to do, write laws, and subjugate her under you, which they do. So what does it say? Obadiah 1:15. The day of the Lord is near for all nations. As you have done, it'll be done to you. Your deeds will return upon your own head. So as you dealt in wrath with the daughters of Israel, the presence of God on earth, so will it come upon your own head. That comes when you break the jars, when you break the bowls. Then we see the wrath of God, which is the final true wrath of God, playing out in the bowl judgments, which seems to be concerning the last 3.5 years. When everything has gone dark, there is no happiness left, and the high ones have returned because the almond branch has flourished. Now there's a word here, and I think the word is loosed, right? Ecclesiastes 12:6. Remember, it's got him. Him. You saw no image, make no image. Before the silver cord is severed and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring and the wheel broken at the well. So still not adding up, huh? So remember your Creator. Loosed. Let's look. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah. So let's go back in and just read it so we get it. So remember her before the silver cord is severed. All right. So, when you think of the cord, you can also think of, the baby, what do they call it? Oh my gosh. The cord from mother to child. Oh my gosh. I got such a bad memory. Before the silver cord is severed, right? So we can look at it that that's the cord, that we're looking at from mother to child. Before that cord is severed. So let's look at what that means to be severed, or to be loosed, or broken. So we'll look at loosed. Wait a second. They give loosed. Okay. 7368. All right. Okay, so it is 7368. Okay, so it means to be or become far or distant, right? Just not remembering our past for one thing. But let's keep reading. Abandon, away, distance, extend, fail, far, far has she removed, far away, gone some distance, good distance, keep and far, keep your far, remove the army far, removed, shunned, stood, aloof. Okay. A primitive route, to widen in any direction. Intransitively, recede, remove, be cast away, put, remove, wander, withdraw. So I have it. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth while she's here. Once the final jars are shattered and broken and you refuse that water from her well, she will remove herself from you. And I have that as a planetary body removing itself. You can no longer have access to her. She's done with you. Wisdom says, I'll call you for a time. And then after that, it'll be my rod that I send. And so you get it all. You get it all here. The silver cord is broken. Cord, territory, band, right? Company, country, destruction, a rope as twisted, a measuring line. So what's a measuring line? A plummet, a plumb line. That's also going to come into our view. So the silver cord is broken, 7533, to crush. Right? To crush. You've crushed her. You've oppressed her. You've told her you don't want her. And yet there's fear in the streets at the high ones. Because what you've done to her will come right back on your own head. Right? The pitcher. Let's look at this word, the pitcher. Feminine, a jar, cad. We looked at this in several of my videos on both channels. So there we got the pitcher at the fountain. So cad leads us to cad, cod, that ruby, in an attacking force. It's interesting. The fountain, or broken, the wheel of the well. So if you want to go look some of those words up, it's really amazing. So we'll read the last two, because it does take us to the tribulation period. Both of these passages, Ecclesiastic 12, verses 1 to 8, and Isaiah 24 is going to lead you back to when the sun, moon, and stars are all darkened, which is one of the judgments, or one of the trumpets, or I'm not sure which. One of the trumpets or one of the bowl judgments, right? When a third of the stars is smitten, a third of the sun, a third of the moon. And so you get it going darkened, and you find those passages of darkness in both of these. Ecclesiastes 12, 1 to 8, and Isaiah 24. So, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. Vanity of vanity. So you're left questioning, what is the purpose of life, right? And it's interesting because this is exactly what you will find yourself asking when this is all going down. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher, that's your Koheleth, who still teaches knowledge. All is vanity. What is worth living for? When you take a look, you open your eyes and you take a look around. That's what a watcher does. A watcher watches. And they understand that word Eido. Oh, I see what you mean. That word Eido. E-I-D-O. Strong's, I can't remember whether it's Greek or Hebrew now. But it has the idea to open your eyes, and by opening your eyes and taking a look around you like a watcher, somebody who watches, you're going to be able to bridge the distance between the physical world and the spiritual world by what you see and understand. But you have to be willing to understand it, right? And start to ask the deeper questions that nobody else wants to ask. So then we've already studied this, but this is the interesting thing right here. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Now, we've looked at Ecclesiastes 12 in the Koheleth there quite a while back. So I'm not going to read those passages. But this is the conclusion. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep not his commandments, hers. Her commandments. For this is the whole duty of a man. Not to bow to an idol, not to be washed in blood, but to keep God's commandments. All right? Which leads you back to the earth that becomes dissolved. And the false foundation and elements, principles that you are founded upon, which is a religious lie that has woman playing man's harlot, bowing to him because they tell you God is a man and that you better bow and obey hubby. That's it. But Deuteronomy 4, this is it, and I'm leaving. All right, and we'll pick up the rest of Isaiah 65. So we go to Deuteronomy 4, right quick. And we will finish with this. Deuteronomy 4 says this. What does God, she say? You saw no image, make no image. But you forgot the rock that writhed in pain and birthed you. I know no other God but you. Let me see if I can find them right quick. Find it right quick. Okay. I can find it here. I should have this circled. Okay. Declared unto you, which she commanded, not he. There. Okay, so it's verse 13. I do actually have it circled, but I'm going to do this a bit better with my pink diamond pen. Okay. So, I can find it quicker next time, if there is a next time. So, and she, not he, declared unto you her covenant, which she commanded you to perform. Even what? 10 commandments. And she wrote them upon 2 tablets of stone. And the Lord commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that ye might do them in the land, whither ye go over to possess it. Now, anyway, what does it say here? 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep her commandments, for this is the whole duty of a man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So there we go. So we're still going to get into the other passages that I spoke on. I know I didn't look at clay yet, but I'm hoping that will come into my line of sight when we take a read on Jeremiah 18 and Isaiah 45. When that'll appear in these videos, I don't know, but it is something that I am keen to do. Hopefully, I'm sorry it took me so long to get to it again. Whenever time permits. I can't tell you what day it'll be, but hopefully I'll be able to post this. Okay, I said it wasn't going to be over an hour. It's an hour and 20 minutes. Sorry about that. Hopefully I'll post this tomorrow morning, maybe? Yeah, it'll be tomorrow morning. So that will be, what's the date today? That'll be the 4th. I'll post it. So this is October 3rd. Is it October 3rd? Yes, it is. Okay, so I thank you for watching. Sorry I blathered on. Anyway, I hope you get some understanding out of that. We're studying it, and over time we're starting to link more and more of it together. There is joy in that. There is joy in knowing that, you know, The Lord chose to share this with us at this time, before all darkness does enter in the land, and there is no opportunity left to receive the water of the Holy One. So I thank you for watching, and Joshua warned you of that. You can blaspheme me, he says. Get away with it. You're not going to blaspheme the Holy One and get away with it after she shows up and you reject her. That's it for you. Wisdom says, when I called, you couldn't be bothered. And then she says, this day have I begotten thee, to her firstborn in Psalm 2. That goes right back to Proverbs 1. Anyway, thanks for watching. I pray the Lord blesses us all with an abundance of the water of truth. And I thank you again for taking your precious time to watch the videos, to travel along in the scriptures, to eke out understanding for yourself, to sharpen your sword for yourself in the spirit world, because that is going to make you a mighty warrior for the true living God, our true creator. And so I pray the Lord bless you with an abundance of truth. Thanks for watching again, taking your precious time to do this. And I do hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.